but that's kind of how I had to navigate it because I love doing all these different things. I love
Mhm.
being a writer. I love being, a producer, a director, and all these different facets, a painter, blah, blah, blah. But like, it's always me. It's always some
Mhm.
like version of that. I don't have to be a totally new version of myself for other people.
Hi, everyone. Welcome to Legroom. Today, I am joined by Grace Aki, and it would be a disservice to do a proper introduction to Grace as someone that can do so much. She is a New York City-based playwright, originally from Georgia, so she has Japanese and American Southern roots. She's worked at places the Upright Citizens Brigade, Barrow Group, has a solo show to Free a Mockingbird. You've heard her on Broadway radio, various podcasts. You've seen her on red carpets across the city for Broadway. And if you've had the honor to know her, you know her as an amazing, loyal friend and someone that can do it all with Grace. Welcome to the show, Grace.
Thank you so much. What a joy. This is so exciting, Jake. I'm so honored to be on this, but also I feel like condensing a bio into like I need to start just saying like talks a lot, you've seen her face. Welcome to the pod. like it's there's like too many like random you're just like, Jesus, is she okay? She's not. But thank you. Thank you so much for having me. This is so cool.
You're really welcome. What really inspired me first to want to have you on is I've looked up to you just like personally for years as someone that does a lot of things and is so passionate and creative. So I wanted to get your kind of perspective on how you embrace those and kind of dive into the creative process a bit more in terms of what we find fulfilling, what we find stimulating that works for us, and then being able to be in spaces that make that happen.
Yeah, that's such a good question because it's honestly like it's a tale as old as time slash like something that I think about every day of like
Hmm.
we've both inhabited so many different types of artistic spaces,
Hmm.
and as two people that like to do a lot of different things, no one of those things define us, and I think that that's the part that exhausts me the most
Hmm.
is that like when I am in a place that is like marketing centered, it's like she's a marketer. If I am at like a playwright's something, it's like she is just a playwright.
Hmm.
Or like when I'm, somewhere else. And it's just so funny to me because I'm like, it feels so. One time I was in this play. I don't know if you know this book called The Phantom Toll Booth.
Oh, yes.
I was the dodecahedron, which was the 12-sided something, and it was community theater, and they were
Uh-huh.
like, "What could she do to exhibit?" Because I was so excited by the part. It was like a tiny part, one scene, and I was like, "Oh, I get to be 12 different people? Like that's so cool." So I worked on all these voices and characters, but like, why? And so with my mom, we bought this massive umbrella and I painted different faces on each piece of the umbrella so that I would flip it every time I was like changing a character and so that people could see it. But I was like 12. You know what I'm saying? Like, who am I doing this for? Paul, that, runs the green spot checkout counter, perhaps. But but I've thought about that like through getting older and whatnot of like changing like all of these different versions of
Mhm.
yourself in front of other people, but I stayed the same. I'm still the anchor. Like it's still just me holding on to the little umbrella, even though like you're seeing all these different versions and variations of me, it's still me at the center of it. So
Yeah.
I don't even know if that even answered the question, but that's kind of how I had to navigate it because I love doing all these different things. I love
Mhm.
being a writer. I love being, a producer, a director, and all these different facets, a painter, blah, blah, blah. But like, it's always me. It's always some
Mhm.
like version of that. I don't have to be a totally new version of myself for other people.
Totally. So then how do you go about finding situations that you can put yourself in where you are a painter, you are a writer? Do you make those opportunities on your own, or do you find yourself kind of just gravitating towards opportunities that you fall into?
I think it's like really delusional. I try to put myself in like the place anytime I'm like scrolling on a social media or I see like an artist doing something. if I'm like, "Oh, I could do that," or I could do a version of that. I think that I put myself in the delusion of like, okay, if I was a nepo baby, like it would come easy. Since I
Mm,
am not, what could I do to get there? And just kind of distributing the art as such. I came across this. Actually, no, I was at the. Do you remember the Wing, which was like this like women's club? You have to look into this, Jake. It is so fascinating at the dissolution of the Wing because
okay.
there's this like account called like Flew the Coop, because all these women were part of this like women's country club. It was like the Year of Girl Boss like era, and basically all these women in New York would pay like $200 a month to be a part of this exclusive club where they would network and like really build each other up. But it was like I wasn't in it. I had friends that were in it, so I leached off of their invites and I would go to
Mhm,
these things. And one woman who owned a real estate business in Brooklyn was then using the front space of her real estate business to do gallery showings for free for underrepresented artists. And she posted on her Instagram story once, and then a friend of mine saw it, forwarded it to me, and was like, "Hey, you've never had your art shown in New York City. This is free." So it's
yeah,
like I didn't have to be in that club to benefit from whatever they were like building, but at the
mhm,
same time, um, people sharing. I think we're in a more accessible time than there ever has been for artists, even though we want to
mhm,
like poo poo it a lot because it's centered in marketing and capitalism and stuff. But like I'm able to find more opportunities with grants, with publishing, with all that stuff because there are really philanthropic people out there. So
yeah,
I think it's creating your own luck in a way of like being
yeah.
aware of like what other people are doing and what you want to do and see if any of it can marry itself.
I've been thinking about that a lot recently in terms of talent meeting luck, meeting opportunity, because something that really feeds into it then is having the ability to I want to say be good at these things, but I feel like that undercuts it. But like to really be able to have a talent and a knack for them that shines through. And I think that when you have that, being able to find ways to express it can be difficult. So I think it's inspiring to hear that you find ways to make it happen. I know you're from Georgia. When did you come to New York?
I moved to New York 10 years ago. It was just my 10-year anniversary of New York City.
Welcome.
And I moved up here because my boyfriend at the time was making a Broadway debut, and I was like, "Oh, my life's set. I'm gonna move to New York. I'm fine." Um, Literally, as soon as we moved up, the show closed, and I was just like,
Hmm.
what am I gonna do? And I hustled and I worked like 2 retail jobs and
Yeah.
babysat and all this stuff, because I was like, I've always wanted to move here. It's the place from the movies, it's the place from the TV shows. Like, I can't have the resources in North Georgia that I have up here. So if
Hmm.
why would I waste my time and money not taking advantage of every possible thing?
Yeah.
I was doing I was in, improv classes at UCB because I read Amy Poehler's book and I was like, I got to go to UCB. And then when I was there,
Yeah.
everybody was like, "Oh, you got to audition for SNL." But I was like, but what if that doesn't happen for me? I want to know how it works. So I was background actor for like a year and a half. Like my hands are Cecily Strong's hands in one scene, because they like zoomed in on them or whatever. And it was just like, I wanted to know what the set was like and how like the
Yeah.
sketches went late at night, for those digital shorts, watching A.D. Bryant fall 20 different ways over the course of 20 minutes in one sketch. And that was so exciting to me. That was free. I was getting paid to watch her,
Yeah.
in a way. So it's like putting yourself in all these scenarios, and it's like, why would I move to one of the greatest cities in the world and not do stuff? Like that just seems
Right.
crazy to me.
Was there something in particular that you were chasing at that time in terms of like you wanted to be a performer or a writer, or were you just taking that time to find yourself more?
Yeah, I thought I knew what I wanted, which was just attention. Like, I think that that's like any, like when I was little, I was just like, oh, if Lauren simply passed me on the street, it's over for you bitches. Like, I was like, oh, that's how it'll work. No, I didn't know who I was at all. I remember like I was in this like improv class, and I was like joking. I did a joke that was like very clearly from The Office. Like I was just regurgitating because that's what we all did in high school. Like we
Mhm.
just repeated other people's jokes from TV and movies to people that had not seen them, and
Yeah.
then we got a laugh.
Right.
Right. And then you're like, "Okay, I crushed." No, you were literally doing Steve Carell's bit. No. And then people were like, "Did you just like from The Office or whatever it was?" And I was like, that and it clicked in my head. I was like, "Oh, how am I funny? Like, how
Mhm.
am I interesting or how am I creative?" Because we've all just been kind of regurgitating everybody else's stuff. And so I think that finding that when you're in your early years of New York City is like super crucial. And some people never find it, but
Yeah.
some people get it kicked out of them really early. So I'm glad that was me.
When did you start content creating? And that is like such a loaded term, and I know how you feel about the term influencer, and I do wanna get to that eventually. But when did you become more of like an online presence?
I don't know. And I still don't think I'm a content creator. So I'm sure there's like pushback on that, but like somebody posted the other day, they were like, "Theater creators you should follow." And it was very sweet. And they included me in it. And I went, "What the hell? I'm not
Uh-huh.
one. I'm not." But because I am associated in some way to those people and I do post a lot of things, there's
Mhm.
an association that other people are making. Who am I to, poo poo that at all? But I I've never like posted really a sketch.
Mhm.
I've posted some clips of my stand up, but I'm uncomfortable by that. I don't feel as though I'm a content creator in the sense of other people are. It's such a hard thing to do.
Yeah.
I realized that I was getting invited because of my proximity to other people to really cool things. And if TikTok had been around in like 2018, forget it. Like I was at every
Yeah.
film premiere whatever, and it's like I didn't take fully advantage of it, but I started putting some of it up and people were like, "Oh, she's living this life, this aspirational life." And it's like I'm taking the bus and like my
Mhm.
boyfriend's taking a black car home. Like it's not
Right.
it's not what you think it is, but I don't think of myself in that way. I think that I just do so much and I sometimes talk about it enough online to where I think it's conflated into I'm a content creator. But I don't think of that.
Then what is your point of view in terms of people that create content and put things out on the internet in terms of influencers, in terms of swaying? I guess I was just going to define influencer. I'll cut that out. But so then how do you look at people that are putting up content, whether they are branding themselves as content creators and going after being a content creator, or if they're just like normal people that are growing a following?
Yeah, it's funny because you and I have approached this probably in like a professional setting so often where people say like,
Hmm.
"And what if we just invited some influencers at this thing?" And I'm like, "What do you want out of that?" You
Hmm.
know what I mean? Like, are you wanting people cuz then, people will name uh influencers, quote unquote, that have millions of followers, but their one thing that they, primarily have a following on is like their jumping jacks routine that makes you lose 10 pounds or whatever it is,
Right.
or or they're just hot. And that's oh, my life. Rip. It might be over. We'll see. But like, sometimes it's like people that just are seen places and they're very good at that. It's a lot. Yeah, forget it on the slide. But some people that are just wanting to be seen at places and it's their full-time job to have a full beat of makeup and hair. And it's not easy. Like I think that people are
Yeah.
like, well, they're just pretty. And I'm like, that's a lot of money and time dedicated to that person. So one side of it are people that are meant to be seen places, and
Mm.
the other are people that are meant to talk about those places. And sometimes those things overlap, and sometimes they don't. Um, I like to talk about things as we're
Hmm.
doing right now. So I never wanted to be associated with the I just go to stuff or I'm
Hmm.
just seen places, which I think is the most common understanding of what an influencer is. I always wanted to be like, but I bring value. Like I wanted to be Rosie O'Donnell when I grew up. I
Hmm.
wanted to like be on stage, have a TV show, learning about other people. That and TV and film, like all that stuff really interests me. So I didn't want to make content for just like the sake of just talking out of my ass like about an avocado toast recipe. Like it was,
Right.
I wanted, if and when I do it, it's for another reason. So I don't know. It's a loose definition, but I think it is interesting. Everyone's understanding of what content creator and influencer is very different to me. Um,
Yeah.
so yeah.
And that's why I gravitated towards you so much, just as a human, because I would agree and relate to that idea of like wanting to be Rosie O'Donnell, where it's like Rosie is a famous and a star and can act and can do all of these things, but the work that she does, this is turning into a Rosie O'Donnell like love letter,
And
but
you
I
know
think
what? It can and it should be.
it can and it should be. Rosie, you're welcome on the pod anytime. I think that that is what makes folks like you stand out, and the platform that you are then able to help give people while supporting all of these different interests yourself, because you're also a performer, a writer, a creator.
Yeah, I just like it. I just like talking about stuff and I like connecting to people.
Yeah,
And
me
I
too.
think that's why I've always had that secondhand embarrassment of like, I was running around the other day in the West Village and I just thought it would be funny if I hit record and tried to go to all these high end restaurants while I was in just like a cashmere hoodie and a hat. And
Hmm.
I thought the feedback from the internet was going to be couple hundred views at tops,
Hmm.
and some people being like, "Oh, bummer. I'm glad you finally got dinner though." And I had like over 100 comments of people being like, "How dare you try to enter that space in a hat?" And I was like, "Jesus Christ." Like but it's funny what people react to on the internet. And then some people were like, "I really like this series. I had
Hmm.
never posted it before." It was one video, but people
Yeah.
were like, "I really like this." And I gained a bunch of little followers, and it was so sweet that I was like, "Oh, should I make this a thing?" And it's like the stress of commodifying in like a very real way, like
Oh
this
my
is a
God.
thing I do now, is terrifying to me. I know that I'm afraid of that. So
Yeah.
you deciding to put yourself out there with legroom, I know is a very big leap for you because
Yeah.
you've made the effort to say, I'm committing to this and I am betting on it. And I know how scary that is.
Thank you. Yeah. It is very hard, and it's been this reckoning I've had like the past like 6, 7 months of healing physically, mentally, and really being able to pursue work that means a lot to me, and then also pursue like inner work that means a lot to me. And I have just started to really learn, and this is something that sounds obvious, but I wish I had known 4 or 5 years ago, which is that no one assumes anything. Like, no one assumes that you're talented at something. No one assumes that you know how to, if in my case, that I knew how to graphic design, that I knew how to tell a witty joke, that I knew how to video edit and direct a set. Like, I have a degree in directing, and I just thought that like people would like meet me, and just like through osmosis they would get that, or I would have the opportunity to show that, but it never really comes. And then you have to make your own opportunity, and then it's really scary because, just like you said, then you're putting yourself out there. Something that has stuck with me, and I hope I'm not making this up, but did you say a while ago that you were originally hesitant about doing your outfit of the day videos?
Yeah.
Because I love those and I looked forward to them all of the time. So it really stuck out to me when you said later on, after having done them for a while, that it was something you were hesitant about doing. And I think such a great commentary that was influential in my thinking of how I pursue this, of how we're so hard on ourselves versus the actual judgment of other people.
Yeah, I was like, no one cares what I'm wearing." But like I just one day I posted like on TikTok, this I just put my phone down in front of a place where I catch the bus, and I was just like, "Hey, this is what I'm wearing today. Have a good one." Like that was it. That's literally it. Because I was like, every day I'm just going to put that up so that I know that I'm connecting to something, even if I'm having a bad day. Like
Mm,
someone might see something they like, or I can connect to somebody else on something they like. And
Mhm.
I had some people, because I come from fashion. I love fashion. When I moved to New York, I worked retail, and I've always loved the storytelling of clothing and how people
Mm.
express themselves, whether that's in loungewear, or the fact that, like, I know that currently I'm wearing a yak or a llama yarn sweater that I know the woman who like sourced it, bought it, and she loved it so much that she bought it for herself, and then she got me one as well. Like,
Aw.
I love that when I wear this, I think about her.
Yeah.
So there's so much attached to it because I'm a very sentimental person, but I was so scared because I hate, like, we all have our own body things, and also
Mhm.
I just assume, like we all do, like, oh well, if I'm not like 5'6", blonde, great tits, like, I shouldn't be posting an outfit of the day videos. Why?
Right.
Like, why do we do that to ourselves?
Right.
It's our own like silly ego of us being like, well, that's for this person to do. Far be it for me. It's like, who cares? Why are we in our own way? It's so dumb. It's literally dumb.
I have been facing and reckoning with the exact same thing, and that exactly what you said with that's for another person. Like, that's not me. And I was like talking to my therapist, I think it was like probably late summer, this past summer. I was like, there was a moment where I paused and I was like, hey, wait a minute. Why not me? Like, actually, why not me? And I think it is something to do, and this is just going to sound like I'm like very concerned about tooting my own horn, but it's like doing too much, being a pushover. Those are things that I've really struggled with my entire life. I try to be very nice and empathetic, and I was just raised in a very specific way that I'm very grateful for, and I think has given me 9 out of 10 great traits for the one that it doesn't. But there came a point where I was like, and this isn't, if you don't know me, this isn't going to come across well on a podcast, but I had this realization a couple years ago when I was starting to come more into myself, which I did very late in life, being 30 now, where I was like, I have to stop holding the door for 5 minutes. I got very, there was a point where I was just holding the door for people that wouldn't acknowledge me, wouldn't do anything, and then I would be expected to hold it for this train of people that like weren't like I was just holding the door for an obscene amount of time, and no one was ever holding the door for me. I'm not expecting people to hold the door for me literally, but I think metaphorically, I was like, I have to be nice and be gracious in the ways that I can, but then also protect me. Because during that time, I was never, ever thinking about me.
No, that's the crazy part, and I think that if any of this is resonating with anyone listening, they'll know what we're talking about. The
Hmm.
people that don't know what we're talking about have all the audacity in the world. They're not worried about this. They're like actually fine. But I've run into it a lot in the past, like especially 2 years, because I've seen the rise of a lot of people, unfortunately, and forgive this kind of phrasing because it's not meant in malice, but like where I'm like, I know my thing is better than them. Or
Hmm.
I know this piece of art is stronger or more compelling or whatever it is. And like, why am I sitting here angry at this other person that just kept doing it or
Yep.
just kept getting it out there? And it was like, I can't, in a healthy way, continue to be angry with people that have continue to persevere. Like, it's not right, it's not healthy, and it makes me like randomly jealous of somebody who's just simply living their dream. Like, it's
Yep.
awful. We can't do that to ourselves. So I just thought, what if I pretended I was my own client? That was the moment that I
Mm.
like flipped something in my brain to say, the energy that you give other people when you are around them to build them up, to the second someone tells me that, like, oh, I wish I did blank more, and it's like ChatGPT. I'll like split out all these ideas where I'm like, oh, well, what if you did this, da, 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 because I am so excited to help see their journey grow. I
Mhm.
never gave myself that energy,
Yeah.
ever. It was like I wasn't worthy of it. But when other people would tell me like, why don't you have blank? And I'd be like, that's cool. I don't know. It's because I didn't give it back to myself.
Yes.
So now I've started to build time in literally to my Google
I
Calendar.
wanted to talk about that.
Yeah, sorry, yes.
No, please go because we I guess I won't speak exactly for you, but we met together working at a job that was, to
Yeah,
me, extraordinarily stressful
yeah.
and fulfilling, but very, very stressful and time consuming.
Mhm.
So, how do you work in m- m- time for yourself, whether that's self care or making?
Yeah, I mean, forgive this phrase because I don't abide by it, but my mom used to always say, of course, like growing up in the South, Christian household, etc. But like, if you don't slow down, God will slow you down. And that would happen
Mm,
like where I would not stop working. Weekends, I would be checking my phone like religiously on
mhm.
the Outlook, etc., etc. And my body would run down. Like I literally physically would like, I'd be like, can't shit for a couple days. Oh well. Like it's kind
Oh
of
my God. I
yes.
I had the opposite. Every Saturday for a year and a half,
Yeah.
I was physically ill every
Yes.
Saturday.
Correct. And you're just like, "Oh, hold on." And so with all of that, it was kind of like, "All right, I've got to start if I'm not just because I was talking to my therapist and she was like, just like giving yourself that grace." And it's like, I'm incapable of granting myself that. I was just
Yep,
incapable of doing it.
yep.
So I started to lie to myself, putting time in the calendar being like, "Oh, this is your break. This is the Grace client time, blah blah blah." And if that meant rotting, watching some TV show I've already seen 100 times, whatever it is, and it helped me start to go, "All right, if there's nothing that is absolutely dire, like truly dire after like 6 o'clock, I'm not opening that stuff."
Mhm,
Like I have to tell myself that. And it's helped me refocus a lot of my creative energy back to myself when necessary. It's not taking away from my job. I think that
mhm.
was the biggest thing that I was afraid of. It was like, but then I won't have the energy. It's like, no, I'm fine. Like,
Right.
why are we doing this? So,
Thank you. This is wonderful. I love the direction that we've gone in and what we've gotten to cover because it's things that I've desperately wanted to speak on, and it's great to know that our kinship goes beyond just this creative vibe, and I think I would like to think that there's a lot of good that talking about this can do, and this isn't even necessarily a question, but you know, we can just frame it as the entertainment industry, even though we work directly in theater a lot of the time. But I feel like the world is really changing right now. We and I, not to trigger anyone, but it is January 19th. TikTok is technically kind of back, but gone. Have you heard that? Yeah.
yeah.
Um, so the way TikTok is coming in and out, the way art is being consumed, whether that's movies, theater, music, everything feels like it's changing rapidly. And I know things have changed forever over the course of time. Famously, things are different today than they were 100 years ago, I've heard. How are you reckoning with that or justifying that in your mind and moving forward with a stable head?
With like the difference in how fast paced our kind of like world is changing right now.
Hmm.
Oh, it's freaking me out. It's for sure freaking me out. I
Yeah.
don't like it at all. Like there's a part of me that's kind of like grateful that people's attention spans are a lot smaller. I'm like, cool. You don't remember that weird thing that happened to me 6 years
Yeah.
ago. I love that for you. It's still carried with me up here because the body keeps the score. But, I'm interested in the continued, connectivity of the arts. Like,
Mm,
I'll give you a personal example again because I hope that anyone hearing this doesn't think I'm an egomaniac, but we are here to kind of talk
we are
about
here to
this.
talk about you.
Yeah, but, I was at the Rockefeller Center tree lighting, and this person behind me was taking a photo of me and my friend. Oh, well, because we asked them to. I was like,
Mhm.
"Oh," I handed them the phone and I was like, "Hi, do you mind taking a photo of us at this tree?" And they were like, "Cool." And the person there was kind of like, "Oh," and I was like, "Oh, I'm sorry." Like I felt like bad asking that, like giving them my
Right.
phone, because I was like, "Oh, I've made this person uncomfortable." And then they handed the phone back and they're like, "I'm sorry. I've seen your play online," and I was like, "What?" Like and I was like, "Oh," the person I've never met ever? And they're like, no, it just like it inspired me a lot. I'm like taking playwriting like in college now and all this, and I was like floored. I was floored. I was also kind of hammered, so I was kind of like, I don't know what to say.
That
But it was so shocking, and it was the second time that month that that had happened, like out of nowhere, and I just took it as like a sign to like keep going with it.
mhm,
Like there's people that you don't know and that you've never met because we're thinking so insular. We're thinking if Bernie Telsey hasn't seen this, means nothing,
yep,
and that's so stupid. Like
mhm,
it's so stupid, but because of technology, because of places like She NYC that have streamed my show for the consumption of people globally online, other young people have gotten to see it and been inspired by it. Even if that's one person, that's a legacy for me. Like I can't top that. I never thought that would happen to me. I'm a one, you called me a playwright. I don't even know what to do with that title because that feels like too prestigious for me. Two, you're saying it inspired you to do something. But that's because of technology, because of the world that we're living in now. So I wouldn't
right,
have had that 6 years ago. There's no way.
right.
So I'm grateful for it. I have to enjoy the fruits of it, even though a lot of it's rooted in garbage.
Yeah, I that's incredible and not surprising, I think, in terms of the fact that it was bound to happen and the work that you've put in to making that play what it is to Free a Mockingbird. Very, very inspiring, and I think it brings up a great question of how we judge success within ourselves. And because I think I could sit here and list all of the times you've performed to Free a Mockingbird, where you've performed it, gone to the Edinburgh Fringe Festival, it's streamed, it's been at the Soho Playhouse, all of these things, but we're still, but then you're still like, oh, you can't call me a playwright. And I would be the same. So I think that it's inspiring for like anyone listening to just like keep going. And I'm also saying this for me as someone that's like putting this thing out there. And it's why one of the reasons I'm like batch recording everything, because I'm like, if no one watches any of this, I'll never pick it up again. But we shouldn't, as creative people, as artists, judge things that way.
Yeah, it's like what you were saying earlier, which I really like because I wanted to return to it, which is like nobody, people are meeting us for the first time online all the time.
Hmm.
Like for the very first time. Can you imagine if the only thing that people think of me as is like the girl that eats hot dogs? Like it's kind of unfathomable, and I would not fault them for it if
Right.
that's all they've seen, of your work. So you being like, yes, I contain all these multitudes. I'm a director. I went to school for this. I understand it. I see films. I analyze films. I talk about them. Blah blah blah. Like we are constantly educating others, and educating may not be it, but like putting the information out there. We need to be putting the information out there of all the
Right.
great things that we do because we can't assume that people know.
Yeah.
Like I would not have assumed when I met you because I was meeting you in one functionality that
Hmm.
you had all of these other creative histories
Same.
and goals. So it's like, okay, so then I want to see your directing, and I want to, even if it's like you did a scene work for this person in this class, I want to see it.
That's incredibly kind. Thank you. And it goes both ways. I remember one of the first days we were working together, there was a pitch meeting, and after that I wasn't involved with, and then afterwards you dropped off a 4x6 watercolor at my desk that you had made. And I went, "What is this?" And you were like, "Oh, I painted it for the pitch." And I think like my exact words, and I don't know if I said it to your face or to like Stephanie sitting there, I was like, when the fuck did she have time to make this? Because it was so good and so unique and special, but it just like out of left field. It's like in the, 2 weeks I'd known you, I'd never known Grace was
This is,
a
by the way, in
postal artist.
reference to the fact that Jake and I were talking about the musical movie Burlesque, and
Is
I
that
had
what it was
painted.
for?
Yes, well, I'd previously painted it, but you were laughing about how much you love burlesque, and
Yes.
I had this painting of Wagon Wheel Watusi Share, and I had printed it, and so I was like, I'm going to bring this in for Jake. And it was just immediately I was just like, "Oh, he might like this." And you were like, "What the hell?" And it was just so funny to me that I was like, "Oh yeah. Why would you know that I did this at all? You probably thought, you know what, I'm just going to scribble this out." right now.
It's
But
it
it's that you don't know everything about people, and I love getting to share all that kind of stuff.
I love that so much. Thank you. When, what do you so in terms of you had said, the way the world's moving freaks you out. You were, I think, maybe joking, but I think the sentiment is genuine. So what is something that you're doing to like combat it where you're both like going with the flow while staying true to who you are?
I'm caring a lot less. I'm caring so much less.
Mm,
Like, I thought that everything I ever put up in the world or everything that I drafted, like I didn't want to even pitch my play like to things like The Fringe until it was really quote unquote perfect or like and we've consumed so much kind of like mediocre fully produced art that I've just started to write so much more freely
mhm.
out of kind of a protest of like it doesn't have why do I think that it has to be like the Final Cut Pro version of this? Like man, like Anna Sophia Robb starring in this on Hulu Plus is going to be the thing that like that's when I know that it's actually fine. No, like
Yeah.
and so I in the past like year I've started just like kind of voice memo drafting some plays that I've been thinking about for a long time, and then like getting it on a page and then like kind of editing that and then putting that out there, sending that out for grants. It's not done. It's not perfect from what I think,
Mhm.
but I can work on it. And there are groups and organizations that put money into supporting art. Why have I always been sitting back here thinking, oh well, I can't apply for that because that's for people that are just like really good or went to school for this. It's like people are getting these grants all the time. We can't be our own no. I'd rather someone else be the no.
Yeah.
I'm caring a lot less, which is probably like it's not healthy for some people, but it's really good for me. And I think that a lot of people need to try that.
I agree, and I think you said it much earlier in the conversation. There's like half the people listening will completely understand what we're talking about, and then the other half will be like, "Well, I'm fine," and then that's great. But for those of us that are our own, no, it's such a hurdle to get through. And it's so funny you bring up voice notes because that actually changed my life this past summer. I was like, I didn't know you could write with voice notes. So I wrote, and I ended up writing an entire play that is finished and sitting in a drawer, but all because I had had the idea of it for so long. But every time I sat down to type it, I couldn't get it. I couldn't get it out. But then when I was in the shower, I was performing the entire thing. So I finally just turned on voice notes and I got it it done. And it's like a way to say that there are so many ways to do things.
Yeah, I've never written anything ever. Like I've never typed anything. It
Wow.
freaks me out. It stalls me. It's
Mhm.
intimidating. Everything because also I think it's also because I come from like stand up and stuff. Like I was just trying shit out. I was just like talking through it until something made somebody laugh, and then I was like, cool, okay, like what can I like from
Yeah.
there? And I would record those things, right? So like with playwriting, I just started in Seth Barish's class at the Barrow Group. He directs all of Mike Birbiglia's stuff. Um, Also a great actor. Plays plays Lorne Michaels, ironically, in the Don't Think Twice movie by Mike Birbiglia, which I think is super sweet.
Oh, that's
Um,
funny.
yeah, but he's an incredible storytelling, solo playwriting teacher.
Mhm.
And one of the things that he had us do was like he said, tell a 10-minute story where there's a beginning, middle, and end, but that beginning, middle, and end could also fall within 12 stories that overarching has a beginning, middle, and end, whatever that is. And
Mm.
so I did it. And I was like, sorry, I don't have like a script. He was like, why do you think you need a script? And I was like, well, because this is like a playwriting class. And he just looked at me like, it's it's a playwriting class. Like it will be performed sometime.
Mhm.
That's fine. And it all kind of clicked. So I started utilizing things like Fiverr and sending out my voice memos to people that were transcribing. And
Yeah.
that way I could see it in form. So I never had to type it because I was afraid if I started to type from my voice memo, I would start editing
Hmm.
in that when I was getting it on the page. And that's not healthy for me.
Yeah.
So, again, all of this technology that we would not have had 10 years ago has helped me become a more fruitful artist. Whereas I think I would have not even attempted if we didn't have that.
Yeah, absolutely. And then I think it's also making your own rules to build it forward. There's something that since I'm super into film and you might get these too, but like on Instagram, I follow all of these like cinema pages where it's like scripts side by side with the scene, and then there's like you get into like the screenwriting tips and the do's and don'ts, and everyone always says like there's such like strict rules of like how you're supposed to write and present things. But then I think it's Variety or Vulture, they release the scripts for movies that are in major awards contention, and like this year Corley Forget's script for The Substance is online, and reading it like just breaks every rule because there's little dialogue in the film. It's all descriptive. It is fascinating to read.
No, I wanna read that
And
one. Will you send it to me? I'm
yeah, yeah,
so
yeah.
serious. That's so cool.
And it's
I thought
just
about it when I was watching the movie too. I was like, "What does this script look like?"
right. And it doesn't look like the script that the Instagram film bros are demanding is the only way you can write a script. I think it's scary. I think a lot of the things we have done and created as a society was done very one way for a very long time. And then even as that evolved with like the oncoming of computers and then cell phones and transitioning to movies in theaters, then DVD, then streaming, I think even that was more of a natural progression of creation than what we're doing right now, which is just this barrage of types of content, the amount of people making content, the amount of people critiquing, and conversations being had. It's nuts.
Well, it's the thing that, like, it's the quiet part out loud, right? Like, I talk about this with my partner who is an actor primarily, and, they were talking about I think that they don't get as many, offers to do, like, master classes and stuff because when they would do them, they would usually do them on, like, a campus, and they anytime the students would be like, "What website, should what should I put on my website?" And, like, "What class," and then they were like, you should like stop trying to think that these 5 songs that you have in your book are going to be the things that book you a thing, or like all of these instant, like wearing jewel tones to your audition is going to make it work. Like there are all of those things are so outdated now that
Hmm.
you do not have to say go blue and graduate from Michigan to like get into something. Like it's actually about your authenticity. And like they would always say that they have been auditioning for every musical they have ever been cast in with the same song since 2010, maybe. It's
Wow.
2025. And it's just variations of Jason Mraz's Mr. Curiosity. That's what it is because they know it
I,
and it's so random. But can you
I love
imagine
that.
auditioning for Dogfight and Frozen and Wicked all with like the same song or whatever it is? Like, because that's authentically them and they know how to cater the song to different genres. I think it's absurd and it does scare me. But I think that the authenticity is real. And so to that point, you seeing the film bros posting that is because that's all they've ever known and
Hmm.
that's what they've been taught.
Hmm.
And what we are seeing because we are contemporary young adults, young the substance, is that we know that there are much less guardrails in place for us to have success, and it scares the shit out of them because they're like, "No, if you don't resave the cat, you can't do it." And because I was told like this is the rules, and it's like, okay, but like Lena Dunham walked into that fucking meeting and like said. It's a show about girls, and they gave it to her. Like,
Hmm.
there's no rhyme or reason. Like, I think that we're all if we're gonna do that, we're getting stuck, and we're
Hmm.
not stuck. So you just got to move with it.
I love that. as we wrap, is there anything, any pieces of art, media? You mentioned girls. Is there anything of the past, could be 2 years, 20 years that you really look up to of works that inspire you?
Yeah, I'm gonna say that most recently, as in 4 years ago, and because I still think about it a lot, as someone who started in playwriting and performing, and has now had television series because I've loved that trajectory for a lot of people. I wish it for myself. But Michaela Cole's "I May Destroy You" is one of the most impactful pieces of media I think we will have like in this time.
Mm,
Um, I talk about it like I talk about The Sopranos. Like I really feel so passionate about it because it's a bait and switch of a piece. It's kind of like Cabaret, where you're like, I know what this is about, and then it's not. It's not really about that. It's about something else. And I think it's just really
yeah.
strong. It's strong playwriting, and it's talking about being an artist in this time while also factoring really challenging topics, which I don't. It's too much of a trigger warning to talk about here, but that as a piece of media and as
Hmm.
a TV medium, I love television. I just love television so much.
Mm,
So that Michaela Cole's "I May Destroy You," which is available on HBO Max to stream, I believe, still. What about you?
excellent.
Tell me you.
Ooh. I mean, I could go down like so many different rabbit holes with movies. But I don't, I think what stands out to me, and this will make some people roll their eyes and some people have no idea what I'm talking about, but I think what Daniel Fish did with Oklahoma really, really broke something in the American theater that was just miraculous. And I think we'll look back on in 20 years and be like, that was the tipping point. This,
Everyone's trying to recreate that and they
yeah,
can't.
they can't. And it is a very European thing to have done. It's a very audacious thing that was just done with such confidence. Basically, for anyone who doesn't know, it Daniel Fish is a director who took the musical Oklahoma and stripped it down and kind of completely reworked it, but in the sense of just presentation, not in changing any text or the score. They did some different orchestrations,
Mhm.
but it it was really miraculous in the way that it impacted and kind of like landed with such a fundamental for I'm really tripping on words, but like in the way that it was really able to land and hit a spot with people of all demographics where they were like, I know the musical Oklahoma, this is
Pissed a
what it is.
lot of people off.
Right, it, like, pissed a lot of people off, but I don't think his intention with sitting down with Oklahoma was like, "I wanna take this," and because like, famously, Daniel Fish is not a director that has approached works like Oklahoma before, and I don't think he sat down and was like, "I'm gonna make people hate this show." I he made me I loved Oklahoma. One of the first things I did when I was in high school in a college community college course theater, we watched the Hugh Jackman Oklahoma as like a gold standard for theater, and I agree, it's wonderful. But then what Dan Fish did with that production was really special. And then I think, Jamie Lloyd has gone on to bring a lot of that to America. Ivo Van Hove did a lot and continues to on other sides of the world. So I would say that for me. But then, like you with television, I'm super into film, and I think that there are a lot of things that have like pushed boundaries and are trying to, like what Brady Corbet did with The Brutalist this year. I think is pretty
I know
sensational.
it's like my last thing to watch because I was like, I can't just like go into this at like 11 a.m. on a Thursday
Yeah,
morning.
it's a commitment in like the best sense, but and very few. There aren't even that many people that have seen it.
But you know what, Jake? What I like about the things that you're talking about, like that you're selecting, are pieces of theater that ultimately are about listening to the original words that were written and how
Hmm.
people portray those things. And I think that people it's about like the theater canon in and of itself of like people are so entranced by the jazz hands and the confetti cannons, which are great
And valid.
and totally valid and definitely pays our bills. But I think that there's something that people often forget, which is like this really strong writing that has an opportunity to be interpreted in all these ways that makes you excited about the art, and that I
Mhm.
think makes young people very excited about the art and the art that it's informing their own shit. So
Yeah.
I like the through line that you're like finding of, oh, I listened to what Curly was saying because what he's saying is very sinister, and we've
Mhm.
just rose-colored glasses this whole time. I think that that's cool. So, yeah, I think that that production pissed a lot of people off, but I loved that it did because,
Yeah.
I think it made them reckon with a lot of their faves.
Totally. This has been such a joy. I really appreciate the time getting to speak. I wish nothing but the best for you, and I hope that you'll come on soon and we can talk about more exciting things. I know you're heading into Tony season, the spring. Well, I guess Tony season's in a while, but we're heading into the spring, so you're going to be very busy, also working on your own personal things. Where can the people find you?
You can find me for the time being on Instagram at It's Grace Aki. This is a real joy. I'm really excited for this whole show for you, and you putting your own work out there is so strong. I don't know if anybody cares to go back in the archives, but Jake did an incredible job, like creative directing and designing my Edinburgh Fringe key art for To Free a Mockingbird. Literally, I showed it to my partner when you sent me the drafts, and they went, "That's stunning." That's stunning. Like
Oh,
that's heart stopping. You have like come on.
thank you.
So I just want to say that I love seeing your new work as like a creative director and all of those things, but I think that the creative brain here is really cool. So thoroughly encouraging all of that. So thank you for including me in this whole thing.
Yeah, thank you. That means a lot coming from you. If you had told me 3 years ago I would be getting to have this conversation with you, I would be very excited.